Harry's wife, she lacks talent. I always understood that the newspaper's purpose was to tell you news. Telling us that Harry's wife lacks talent is not news. We already knew that to be the case. I suppose, however, they may well squeeze it in under the auspices of somebody else telling us that she lacks talent, and we didn't know that that person had such a view. Although, again, it's not going to be a surprise, is it? Harry's wife lacks talent, a mediocre actress, and that's it. You would not say that her talent for manipulation and leeching off men is a true talent that would ordinarily be recognised. Talent is thought of in terms of being a brilliant broadcaster, or a fantastic artist, or a talented author, or a brilliant sportsperson, a fantastic entertainer, and so forth. She is none of those things. The problem that a narcissist that Harry's wife has is that she is led to believe that she is at the top of her game, that she is exceptional, that every word that she says is somehow gilded with gold that will penetrate the ears of people around the world, causing them to go, wow, what amazing insight she has. That when she wears an outfit, people's eyes will light up with joyous recognition that she is a fashion icon. That when she writes a letter, that the recipient of the letter will go, what a powerful and persuasive missive I have received. I will immediately action the suggestion that Harry's wife has issued, not least because it comes on headed notepaper telling me that she is a duchess. You may think that I'm being sarcastic, and to an extent I am. But Harry's wife's deluded mind really does work that way, that she thinks everything that she says, everything that she writes, everything that she does, everything that she wears is going to be seen as fantastic, amazing, brilliant, novel, pioneering, and unique. She thinks that way because she keeps doing it. Remember, it isn't the case that she looks at all her failings and go, oh well, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Or, well, that didn't work, but I'll give it another go. You never know, success might be around the corner. No. She either thinks that was a brilliant success, or where she is able to recognise that it didn't work, it's somebody else's fault and wasn't down to her lack of talent. It's this level of delusion that allows certain narcissists to keep plugging away until they do get to a position of prominence, fame, or influence. Others never get there, but some do. And arguably, she has done so as a consequence of her tenacity. But the tenacity wasn't with regard to creating books or art or broadcasting. Her tenacity was simply with regard to ensnaring Prince Harry, that she brought him under control, and by her association with him, it enabled certain doors that hitherto would have remained firmly locked to her to then be opened. Talent didn't open those doors, association with the royal did, and then thereafter, association with the potential for gossip about her royal lifestyle opened those doors. Strip away Harry, she's a nobody. Strip away the royal family, she's a nobody. What does she offer? Nothing. Her lack of talent becomes laid bare because she thrust herself onto the world stage, driven by her self-absorption, her desire to be seen, her hunger for prominence, all driven, of course, by her narcissism. And then she becomes horrendously exposed as project after project falters, that even the ones that were successful, in terms of, say, viewership, like the Harry and Harry's Wife series on Netflix, only really was successful as a consequence of so many people tuning in to see what will this shit show tell us. They're not genuinely interested in her, They just want to see what more lies she would come out with, what nonsense she would spout. And now the dominoes have begun to fall over as this lack of talent, which many of us have known about for some time, becomes horrendously exposed for her. And it continues. As Charlotte Wace in the Times writes, Harry's wife lacks talent, says top agent. One of Hollywood's most powerful figures has dismissed the Duchess of Sussex as a talentless broadcaster after the end of her multi-million-dollar deal with Spotify. Jeremy Zimmer, who is the chief executive of United Talent Agency, gave his view on the audio talent of the Duchess after the streaming giant backed out of its $20 million deal. Zimmer, who has guided the careers of household names such as Benedict Cumberbatch and Damian Lewis, said he was not surprised that Spotify had parted ways with the couple after one series. Turns out Harry's wife was not a great audio talent, or necessarily any kind of talent, he told the news website Semaphore at the Cannes Lions advertising festival in France. And you know, just because you're famous doesn't make you great at something, he added. It was reported that Spotify backed out of its deal with the Sussexes because it expected more content from the couple and their Archwell audio team, according to Variety magazine. Archwell made one series of 12 episodes of Harry's wife's archetype show and a 30-minute special in 2020 featuring celebrity friends and their son Archie. Harry's Wife's Archetypes podcast focused on the stereotypes and assumptions that women are subjected to. It was released last summer and the company was said to have been in talks for a second season before the deal ended. The couple released a statement with Spotify claiming that they had mutually agreed to part ways. Afterwards, Bill Simmons, a Spotify executive, called the couple fucking grifters, an American word meaning swindler. Simmons, who is head of podcast innovation and monetization, criticized the pair on his own podcast, saying, I have got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try and help him with the podcast idea. It's one of my best stories. Fuck them, the grifters. It emerged on Sunday that the pop star, Taylor Swift, had declined a personal invitation to parts passive from the Duchess to appear on the podcast, according to the Wall Street Journal. Swift declined the handwritten invitation from Harry's wife through her representative. Burn. It was also claimed the newspapers reporting that a lack of productivity from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex left executives at Spotify and Netflix underwhelmed. Employees and associates of Archwell are reported to have said that the company often lacks direction and that its founders at times seem surprised by the work required to finish entertainment projects. That's, of course, because Harry's wife has no accountability for putting in some hard work. And Harry is just instinctively lazy because he's had a privileged lifestyle. Sources from the company also said that selecting guests for the podcast was often fraught, with Harry's wife requesting changes late in the process. Sense of entitlement. It was said that the terms of the Spotify deal had included each of them voicing and being directly involved in a podcast, but that Harry, in particular, struggled to land on an idea. Harry and Harry's wife's deal with Netflix, which runs until 2025, was also scrutinised, and the article spoke of a graveyard of video projects that were never made. While Harry and Harry's wife, the couple's Netflix documentary about stepping down as working members of the royal family, was popular, and Harry's memoir Spare has become a bestseller, the Sussexes are said to have struggled to make content beyond their own experiences. They are, however, said to be developing a show for Netflix called Bad Manners, based on Miss Havisham in Great Expectations, the Charles Dickens novel. Harsh words from Jeremy Zimmer, and he ought to know something about talent, and for another individual to be so blunt, there's no beating around the bush, there's no euphemizing it, there's no sort of encouragement on the one hand. It's very simple. He states that she was not a great audio talent or necessarily any kind of talent. Just because you're famous doesn't make you great at something. Words that are, of course, challenge fuel to Harry's wife. She's being spoken about again, but not in a way that she would want. And thus, it would cause a tantrum. Perhaps she will fall to the floor sobbing as Harry once again has to appease her, as the world reminds her that she is just a beige, talentless individual. But maybe, just maybe, below the line, there is some redemption. J. Doherty writes, the book was successful because they could pay someone else to actually write it. Their other projects failed because they required some talent and some hard work. S. Morgan adds, along with original ideas and concepts, business progress flows, organisation, commitment, determination, ethics, knowledge, capability, and so much more. Both are lacking in intelligence. Their only topic is them. They've played and spent that card to death. C. Burns. Of course they are unproductive. They're a pair of chancers, prostituting their royal credentials to the highest bidder. More fool Netflix and Spotify for not realising this. S.C. DeWitt. Taylor Swift and Harry's wife are comparable in terms of name recognition, but beyond that they have very little in common. Taylor is incredibly talented and now worth close to $1 billion. Sitting around yakking on some silly podcast about how tough life is because she's a woman. Taylor Swift signed her first recording contract when she was 15 years old. She's hardly down with the struggle. Chris Gott. In this woke world, they could identify as trees and become two short planks. R. Warburton. If Harry and Harry's wife were employees, they would never have made it past the probationary period review before being fired. Take your pick of the feedback from negative attitude, complains a lot, offers problems not solutions, not good in team environment, doesn't take direction well, only been in the office one day a year, poor communication skills, brings personal family problems and chickens to work. Kevin O'Connor. However, said to be expecting a show for Netflix called Bad Manners based on Miss Havisham in Great Expectations, the Charles Dickens novel. That sounds a belter. Naturally said with sarcasm, or written with sarcasm. Al Dickens. What I find staggering is that executives at Spotify and Netflix genuinely thought that the Sussexes would actually be able to produce content beyond their own whining. I would be asking questions of those supposedly intelligent executives. Mr. Chris Ancliffe responds, it was Netflix's most watched programme ever, mostly for the wrong reasons, so it probably generated a huge surge in new membership or staved off churn for a while, but I suspect they always knew they were never going to option anything further. S. Parks. Harry is discovering the same truth that Andrew discovered, that outside the family firm, their lack of talent quickly makes them irrelevant. Tustin Amol. Whatever you feel about the British royal family, they spend their time spotlighting charities and worthy causes. Meanwhile, Harry and Harry's wife have been spending their time enriching themselves. Harry's wife is reportedly planning a Kardashian-type lifestyle website, and Harry, it's reported that he wanted to do podcasts interviewing Trump and Putin about any childhood traumas. Spotify passed and Netflix hasn't announced any new projects with them. Let's hope they haven't spent all of their past paychecks. Interest in them seems to be waning. Nick Meredith, a pair of talentless grifters whose only selling point is the royal status they cling on to, while rejecting any of the responsibility that goes with it. Unsurprising comments, lambasting them again for their absence of talent and the way that they have simply grifted their way to try and obtain money. Robert Craycraft adds, the Invictus series sounds like blatant exploitation of injured service members on the surface. Let's see how much of the revenues flow to them versus Henry and Rachel Windsor before casting aspersions. There are more damning comments. A continuing tidal wave of condemnation for Harry's wife and Harry, something they're not going to be able to turn around. She lacks talent, and it's been said again. And no doubt she's been made aware of this, and there will have been a shriek of indignation before she fell to the floor sobbing, claiming, why do they hate me so much, Harry? And of course, Harry probably starting to realise why they do, but he daren't say it to her. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.